We're here on this set with Adam and Mandy Gleason, founders of Replica Surfaces. How are you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
We're talking about a new brand launch that you guys are doing for Gleason. Tell us a little bit about Gleason. What is Gleason?
So Gleason is the sister company to Replica Surfaces, the other company that we co-founded 5 years ago. And so with Gleason, we serve the same audience, the same customers, namely creators, small business owners, entrepreneurs, but we also want to widen that audience to other people that care about the things that they surround themselves with in their home. So with Gleason, the whole goal is to refine your day. So surround yourself with objects that are beautiful and exceptionally functional so that you can hit your flow state more often. So we think of flow state a lot as just being something that athletes experience, right? So basketball or a runner's high. But you can also feel that in your day-to-day life, whether you're writing something or you're creating something. And so we have found that we can hit that and have a better day when we don't have any kinds of mental clutter around, or visual clutter leads to that mental clutter. And so that's why we want to create objects that look great, do their job exceptionally well, and then it can enhance either your mood or your productivity or whatever it is that makes your day feel better at the end of the day. And so when you wrap up that day, this was a good one, and have that more often, because I feel like, especially in the small business owner, entrepreneur space, those are kind of elusive. They feel a little chaotic, and we want to make them feel better.
So that's the more beautiful answer. I think there's also when we started this, we are the Replica customers. One of the big things that they wanted was a lighting system, and we kept hearing that, but we weren't ready to make it yet. But when we got to the point where we were going to make it, it was originally going to be a Replica product. But as we developed it and added on all of these features, we started to feel that if somebody came to the Replica website and it's selling all photography stuff and then this stuff that sells other things, we'd create confusion. So it made a lot of sense to create a sister brand or a new brand where we could expand what we could offer while still serving the same people. And it honestly gave us a little bit of creative room. We could have fun again with logos and colors and these sorts of things we hadn't thought about in a couple of years. Not that we don't think about the Replica logo work stuff, but it'd been kind of almost cemented in a certain way. So this gave us that ability to kind of have fun being creative with those elements like we did when we started Replica.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So that's why with Gleason, we're starting with our two flagship products, the Dallas Lights and the Dallas Spotlight. And they have 6 functions all combined into one so that we can serve that exact same creator, small business owner community, but there are functions that can serve a much broader audience as well.
Mandy, you mentioned earlier that there are 6 functions. Can you talk about those 6 functions?
So Dallas Spotlight and Dallas Lights, they come together and they create the Dallas lighting system. And together, that's what gives the 6 functions. So the first one, product photography, to serve our Replica customers. There's a diffuser that you place on the front, so the whole thing acts like a beautiful softbox to give you the soft lighting that you want for product and for food photography. From there, you can actually articulate the boom arm. So you can raise it up, you can put it down, and then the arm can go down to 90 degrees or anywhere in between. So now you can go from that to overhead videography or photography. So you shoot downward, maybe you're creating a recipe. Then you can go into content creation mode, ring light mode, there's your third function, by removing the diffuser. So now the Dallas Lights, they're shining right at your face, and you can create any face-to-face video content that you need. From there, you can break the ring light, as we like to say. So you remove the 2 lights. They're placed into the shade via magnetic induction charging. So they stick in beautifully and satisfyingly when you clunk them in, but they also charge there, which anyone who's ever created knows that charging is one of the banes of using lighting. So you can remove them, place them next to your laptop or desktop computer. Now you have video conferencing lighting, and you look way better than you ever did before. And from there, you can change the color by using our pre-programmed lifts. So those are those colored settings where you get blue light when you want to be awake, green light when you want to focus, and red light to calm you and prepare you for sleep. And then all of those 5 functions, they all tie together as a beautiful floor lamp that hides in plain sight. So those are your 6 functions: product photography, overhead videography, ring light, video conferencing, lifts, and the beautiful floor lamp. Whew.
So with Gleason, with the light, tell us a little bit about the functionality of the light.
So yeah, we started out with, all right, we want to create a great product photography light. That's what our core customers were asking for. We knew we wanted to make it approachable. Buying lighting equipment we found was very confusing. What mates with what works together with what. Like we spent a lot of time.
What is this? You know?
Yeah.
Like
What's a Bowen's mount? Like we had to learn all this stuff and watch YouTube videos, and we'd go to B&H and we'd get confused, and then you'd buy something, it doesn't fit together. So we knew okay, we want to create a better product, light for product photography. We wanted to make it accessible not only to buy and know it's going to work in a system, but then also to use. So we had that as the kind of first inspiration. And then as we were working with that, we were like, okay, well, what lights are they using? Because we kept surveying our audience to kind of understand how we could best meet their needs. And many of them were using ring lights. And ring lights aren't always the best for product photography, either because of the size of them or the type of light or the ability to control it, all these things, and they're really ugly. So we're like, okay, can we somehow combine product photography with a ring light? And we did that by basically breaking the ring light into 2. And making 2 individually battery-powered things, which was a heavy consideration because now we need 2 items, 2 batteries, 2 control boards. It's more for us to design and develop, and ultimately has, cost of good to that. Right. But we found that it'd be most functional if we could have them be modular, and you could use 2 together or 3 together in different ways to achieve the lighting that we wanted, and then they could still be paired together in a ring light when we do it with the spotlight.
And the way that we actually ended up coming up with the break the ring light concept, that wasn't actually part of the original ideation. What we were doing is we purchased a number of lights that were on the market that had different uses because we wanted to see what did we like about those solutions, what did we not like, so that we could, of course, incorporate everything we liked into ours. And in the process, we were trying some of them as Zoom lights next to our computer. And we were like, okay, this is amazing. This is a function that we do want to incorporate into our light. But how could we do that if they were, if the light was just shining straight on you? How are you really lighting next to your computer? What do you do with the size of your table? So the first idea was, okay, if we were to break the ring light in 2, you can now place them next to your laptop and you can light yourself for all of your video conferencing calls, which, we take multiple a day. Most people take multiple a day, whether they're a business owner or they work for a business, whatever it is. This is here to stay, video conferencing. And as we were doing that, we were finding that during our morning meetings, we were feeling more energized than we normally were. So I'm usually half a pot of coffee a day person, but I was drinking a cup and a half, and feeling the same when these lights were on. And you were finding the same thing. So we talked about how weird that was. At the end of the day, we'd have half a pot of coffee left. And so... Which
is not normal for entrepreneurs who don't sleep and need gallons of caffeine.
Very uncommon. So we looked into the science of that. Was there actually science that backed this up, or were we just experiencing something weird? And so luckily, we were both doctors. And so...
and I was a neuroscience major.
And he was a neuroscience major of all things.
I earned that.
Yeah. Yep. So as we looked back at all of the scientific articles, we were able to comprehend them and understand all of the complexities there. And we found that there is a ton of science behind why we were feeling so good when these lights were on. And it turns out that that lights and dynamic lighting, where it changes color throughout the day, was being used by NASA on the International Space Station, of all things. So because astronauts' sleep cycle is completely out of whack, they don't have a normal sunrise and sunset.
They have 16?
They have 16. They see 16 sunrises and sunsets in a day, which is a really cool fact. I didn't know that until the articles. But so they tried different kinds of lighting. Blue lighting in the morning, and red lighting at night, and that this massively improved their circadian rhythms, their sleep-wake cycle, and their ability to do work and complete tasks during the day. And so the science behind that is the science behind one of the new modalities one of the 6 functions that we've put into the Gleason lights. So our lifts. So we talked about that earlier before we got on camera. And so what they do is they change color so that in the morning, like I said, you use blue light in the morning and the red light at night. And what that's doing is it's activating a different part of the retina of your eye than you actually use for vision. There are parts of the eye that only react to light, not to the physical thing that you're seeing. And when light hits those areas, by blue light, it increases something called melanopsin, which is the opposite opsin of melatonin. So it decreases your body's melatonin levels and makes you feel more awake.
Yeah, which you want melatonin
Right?
at night, but not during the day when you're trying to get
Exactly.
stuff done.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so at night, when you use the red light, but right before you go to bed, you're decreasing the level of melanopsin and therefore increasing the level of melatonin. So all it's doing is leaning into what your body is naturally producing, but you're helping it to do it now that we live in a situation that's pretty disconnected from the actual circadian cycle of the sun. You know, we're getting up before the sun, we're going to bed, we're not looking at the sunset. So we're really just using it to lean into your body's natural rhythms without any kind of pharmaceuticals. And you've seen that in ways that you probably didn't even recognize. Like, we talk about blue blocker glasses. Some people use that, but it's also integrated into other products like your phone will kind of turn more of a reddish color and remove the blue light.
Kindles do the
at
same.
night. Exactly. Kindles do the same. And
Car interiors, they used to be like this really nice, like calming red, the tack and all of that stuff. But then now, any car you get into has like a big LCD screen and it's all blue colors. They had to get rid of that red orangish thing because it was a higher risk of somebody getting so calm and so sleepy they'd have a car accident. So that's why car interiors are now more like an iPhone inside. Is to keep you more awake.
yeah. So a lot of other products incorporate this science in a small way. And what we're doing with the lifts within the Dallas lights is just being more purposeful about it. So just giving that light to you directly rather than a little bit of it within whatever other technology that you're using.
Got it.
So long-winded answer. I talk about this. This is my favorite part, and I love the fact that it was an accident.
So we've talked a little bit about this launch of this sister brand, Gleason, and you're building a brand here, just like you did with Replica Surfaces, which is a brand. Brands are difficult to build. They need a why, as we all know. You need a why behind your brand. Can you talk about what the why is behind Gleason?
When it comes to the why behind Gleason, I think it really comes back to the concept of refining your day. Our tagline is "Your Day Refined," and we came up with that very early on. It felt right, and it's stuck now for over a year now. And I think the reason that resonates with us is refinement is more about small changes that make a big impact. So we don't stand for waking up at 4 a.m. hustle culture unless that's your thing. But that's not what we or any of our products advocate for. It's about having the right equipment for the job. It's easy to use. It's super intuitive. It does its job exceptionally well so that you don't clutter your mind with having to learn unnecessary or difficult facts in order to use your product, or it's a struggle to lift and move around, and that just kind of grates on you. So it's about the perfect tool, and then why not make it beautiful in the process so you never think about that ugly thing sitting in the corner of your room.
Or in the closet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't think about having to set it up. So one of our customers' biggest requests when we asked them what they needed in a lighting product was something that was easy to store. And that came up more frequently than we ever really expected that it would. So a lot of us live in smaller spaces. We live in apartments. Maybe we're living in a big city. And storage space is at a massive premium. And so storage over and over, easy to set up and take down. And when we heard that concept, we thought, okay, well, there's two ways that we could tackle that, really. You could make it easily collapsible, make some cheap storage bags. So, okay, fine, you can throw it in the closet easier than you could otherwise. But you still have to find that closet, and you still have to waste all of that time taking it out, setting it up, tearing it down. And so anyone who's created knows that that is an incredible drain on your mental energy, your creativity, and really just your time. So we thought, well, can we solve that problem rather than making it easy to store by storing it in plain sight, hiding it right in front of you as a beautiful floor lamp that you never have to disassemble, you never have to set it up.
That's genius.
In a certain way, like form is function there. Like the visualness of it in your home, how it looks is another function of a product that we think is often discounted by most people designing products. And to that end, I think, not to knock on every product designer, but I feel like most products are designed in a boardroom with a team of engineers and designers. They're fighting over it. Like, costs are heavily involved early on, so they could make it for $1 a unit, and then hopefully they sell 100,000 units. Like, we have designed this complete opposite to that. We've designed it from our kitchen table with the why in mind, and I think with that, we've created something that I think is much more special than most things you can find, and 100% more special than anything on Amazon.
Definitely. We don't have to make the sacrifices to either form or function to hit those kind of boardroom metrics and satisfy our investors.
There's something to be said about when a creative spark happens for someone. You were speaking about it earlier, like the drain it is to have to set everything back up to get that creative burst out. But if it's already set up,
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's why many of our customers have said they just keep the ring light up. And it's this ugly black plastic ring light that's plugged into a wall outlet, and it's just this eyesore. And so that was a thing that we knew we could do much better than.
you guys mentioned before we started filming that Gleason had been 5 years in the making. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So the other part of why Gleason's been 5 years in the making is that when we first started with Replica, we had no idea really what we were doing as new business owners and as product designers. So we chose a product that people with minimal experience could actually execute on well. So printed backdrops, there's no electronics, there's no massive manufacturing or design that has to go into that.
Can't be that hard.
It can't possibly be that hard. We were really naive. We ended up learning that it's very difficult to get printing right. There's ink curing, there's material science. So all that aside, but the whole point was that we thought that we could get a hold of that. We knew that we would never be able to make something as complex as the lighting system that we're making now. So over the course of those 5 years and the experience that we got, first with surface design, then with soft goods of making our carrying case, and then something more complex with the Replica Studio, which is a way that you can hold your backdrops, and it really makes it an amazing shooting experience. We're finally at the point where we can take that next leap into designing something so complex, so multifunctional, and know that the final project is going to be as amazing as we want it to be.
Yeah, we've made things out of metal and plastic and cloth, and now the next variable is electronics, which we've got some great partners to help us understand that. I'm not doing the soldering.
Yes, we have an amazing design team behind us, so they were able to work with us and take our ideas, ideate them, design them, engineer them, and then we can find the right manufacturer. So amazing team we're working with, but we are mentally and emotionally prepared for the rigors of designing something so complicated by this point.
What were the kernels that ultimately led to Gleason?
There's a lot of ways to answer that question, but we looked at what we liked around us, and that's what kind of inspired us. So there's products that are made by a company called Marshall. They obviously known for music products, but they sell a speaker that we love. They didn't have to build it beautifully. It's got gold finishes and looks like it's old, but functions like it's new. It's got buttons that you can turn and press. And so getting inspired by things that we wanted helped that was one of the kernels that helped guide us towards wanting physical buttons on the lights, and kind of old tech, new tech was one of the kernels.
We were really inspired by home decor and having those beautiful either multifunctional or just exceptionally functional things around us. So both of us, we hate when there's clutter. We hate when there's this, the dishes building up in the sink. We find that we can't concentrate on the work that we're trying to achieve, particularly when it's more creative work. So to have those beautiful objects around you just gives you that peace of mind. And so knowing that that was something that was really influencing our day, we thought, there's no way we're alone in that desire to have fewer things, but really great things surrounding you. So like Adam said, the Marshall speakers being beautiful but function like they're modern. We have the new version of the Nespresso coffee maker. You've probably seen it. They've evolved so much from the original function is not that different from the new function, but now it looks a lot more like a piece of art on your counter. And that gives me, the mental peace to just create, just to have a better mood and a better experience in my day.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so there's like minimalism and multifunction, right? If you can have one thing that does many, then you don't need lots of different things, which is why we wanted to build something that had 6 different functions. And by being beautiful, it's also serving its own purpose in your visual eye line and those sorts of things. So we'd started thinking about all right, well, what if we make things for the home and we make them multifunctional and maybe they do something, but then they kind of hide in plain sight. So we loved this idea so much that 4 years ago, we bought the domain name Hide Home because we thought we would make something along those lines. We still own it. It's not going to be used for anything that I know of.
There's nothing on the webpage.
So hopefully we can sell it someday for more than we bought it for, but we were going down that path, and that was 2019, 2020.
Yeah, initially we were thinking about how do you hide dog products in your home. So I was using this super ugly Tupperware to put my dog's dog food in it, and it was just sitting on the counter, distractingly ugly. And so that was kind of one of those first kernels of let's make beautiful things. But then that evolved, and we thought, well, if we make beautiful things, but we don't serve our current customer base, we're kind of doing them a bit of a disservice. So knowing that our replica customer base, and we have this incredible tight-knit community, two-way street, great brand relationship with our customers, they needed to solve, first and foremost, their photography and their content problems. So we were able to take the kernel of those beautiful things and apply it to the thing that they were most looking for, which was lighting.
Got it. So this is your path from replica surfaces to Gleason to a light, basically.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is we can use these elements to then guide what we'll make next after the Dallas lights and Dallas spotlight. We kind of have this framework of beautiful minimalism, multifunction. We could take that at any path now and make a whole host of products. So that's the leap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You brought up an example earlier of what you use for some design inspiration. Can you speak to that a little bit more? What are some other brands or pieces of inspiration you pulled from to create the design of Gleason?
So Marshall was a big one. And then we've even kind of taken some of that into the branding. There's hopefully a bit of rock and roll feel to it. I think that gold of the Gleason kind of carried into it. There's another company, we haven't purchased from them yet, but Buster and Punch. We've bought it for prototyping purposes, but they make really cool interior design pieces like doorknobs and lights.
Drawer pulls, so kind of like the hardware that you'd use in your home, as well as a lot of lighting for the home specifically, ambient lighting.
And that founder, before they founded Buster and Punch, he did motorcycle resto modding, where he would make an old motorcycle and put on cool new pieces that would make it feel like a new piece of art. So he had that background, and he took that motorcycle history into interior design, and we were really inspired by that story and honestly the products they make. So some of the knurled elements of it kind of are an homage to what we've liked with Buster and Punch.
Yeah.
As you were talking about this process of idea to prototype, in talking to a lot of founders and being involved in the process myself in the past, I know there's a tendency sometimes to cut corners and to make compromises from the original vision of what you were trying to create. Before we started filming, you talked about how you guys have gone to a great extent to not let that happen. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So when it comes to making compromises, there's kind of two different ways that you can look at that. You can look at a compromise in that you're either sacrificing form or you're sacrificing function. Or it can be more of a positive compromise where you're really hitting a barrier, whether it's something isn't working from a manufacturing standpoint or from a physics standpoint. And you need to go back to the original idea that you had and think about why were we trying to incorporate that feature in the first place. So for an example, with the shade on the Dallas Spotlight, initially we had designed it to have rounded square corners and emulate that same design language of each of the Dallas lights. But in doing that, the shade looked really industrial, like it looked kind of like a vacuum cleaner nozzle or like it should be in a dental office rather than a beautiful object in your home. And the reason that we had that shape was because we had a door in the back of it. And so through that door, you were able to look through and either see the screen on the back of your DSLR camera, or you could see the screen on your phone. So in that way, you could actually use the higher quality camera where you can't see yourself, the one on the back side of your phone. And so when we wanted to now go to a beautiful rounded shape, we weren't able to incorporate that door. You can't have a rounded door, right? And so we had to let that paradigm of we need a door go and revert back to, well, what's the goal we're trying to accomplish here? It's to try and see the screen. So in doing so, we were able to then incorporate a hole in the back of the internals of the shade with a removable shade that comes off. So now you can look through that hole and see that screen.
Oh, great.
So in that sense, the compromise was a very positive compromise rather than one of the ones that sacrificed either form or function. We were able to have a better form, and in my opinion now, actually an even better function than we had with the door in the first place.
Yeah, it's magic when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the shape is really cool, the way you guys did that. Can you tell us a little bit about the shape and how did you come to that decision? And that?
Yeah, so we knew that the shape of the shade was going to basically choose how the whole floor lamp would look in your home. We knew it was massively important. So we started by going to basically every place that sells floor lamps to kind of understand what forms currently exist. And we didn't really find anything that matched what we wanted. And so I'm a huge, I love cars, so I started looking at those forms. And there's a new Koenigsegg that's called what is it?
I think it's Gemera.
Gemera. Not a big Koenigsegg guy, but I love the shape of it. And what was cool about it is that it was a curve, but it had the apex kind of more towards one side. And that fit with how it's going to attach to the rod and all those things. So we thought, okay, can we take that form? And so I literally went into Photoshop and took that car and then outlined its shape and drew it 1,000,000 times. And it looked terrible for the first 100, but then eventually the inspired shape came to be. And then I passed it to people much more talented than me. They converted those doodles into what exists today. And what we got was the same function that we wanted with it being removable. And that was the huge aha. Have it be removable, you don't need a door, and we can have this form that we love.